Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. Glad you're here this Wednesday morning. Got a great show lined up. As always, we'll get started with our weather, brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin Road and Highway 77. Now today's high is going to be 77 and the night is going to be 62. So we got a good day. It's going to be partly cloudy a little bit. It should be a really nice day. It's going to be breezy, but the water temperature dropped 1 more degree down to 77 degrees. Now let's take a look at our river readings. Again, the river's in great shape. I've been getting some good reports. They've been catching some nice crappie on the river, some nice speckled perch. The Apalachicola near Bluntstown is reading a 3.2. It's going to start dropping out a little bit tonight. The Choctawhatchee at Careville is reading a 4.8 this morning, and it's going to slowly drop. There's going to be a little bit of dropping water going on into Friday afternoon and Saturday morning. Got a little bit of a drop there. So river's in great shape, and a lot of good things going on in the river. It'll be a beautiful weekend, looks like, to get on the river, either one of them, and all the creeks that feed into it. Now take a look at our tide chart, brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery, and their motto is "Where Carrying Counts." Looking on Wednesday, November the 6th, we've got strong 2-foot tides today and the rest of the week. I mean, it's really good tides. Low tide is going to be this morning. We're not quite there yet. It's going to be at 8:56. So right at 9 o'clock, we'll have low tide. Then it's going to start coming in strong. So it's going to be 10:41 to be the high tide tonight. A good night to go floundering. The marine forecast could be coming out east northeast at 10 to 15, so it'll be a little bit breezy coming out of the east. All right, that takes care of our weather. We'll be back right now with our special guest. Welcome back, and welcome to Captain Rick Corley. Good morning, Rick.
How are you?
Good to have you. We were talking about some old timers and all that. I mentioned the other day I had the Wallace Caswell story on out of my book, and you were commenting that you remember Wallace Caswell and some of the escapades he was in.
I knew him about the last 5 years. I was a youngster then, but I remember him. He was what they call. He was over at Treasure Island. He did what they call barking.
At this point in time in his career, he was into that. After the movies and the Stars in the Sea and all that.
But he was a barker on the docks a lot. He would promote people coming on the boats and things, and of course. People don't know that now, but used to they had guys. He put on. Everybody had a captain's hat, and they did it. And they'd walk down the dock, and they'd say, "Well, this boat's coming in, and it's got a real load of fish. You know, folks, you need to get on down here on the dock so you can see them. You know." And everybody would gather around and see the load of fish. And of course, what he was trying to do is get people to buy tickets to go the next day. And I will forget one of them down there one day. A guy got off the boat and he said, "Well, I didn't catch that many fish and I ain't real happy. I think I'm going to go with your competition." He said, "Well, let me give you your money back on your ticket. You go with them. If you catch more fish, you stay fishing with them. But if you don't, you come on back and go fishing with us again and we'll see if we can't do a better job." And the guy looked at him and said, "You serious, aren't you?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Give me a ticket for tomorrow then." And he says, "I'll try again." And I mean, things like that they would, you know, they get people to do what they wanted them to do. They were salesmen, but they called them barkers. They sold the boats on the dock there. And
sort of like when the circus came to town and getting people all excited about it. And I remember reading about George Davis was one of the original ones down in St. Andrews. I remember Richard Hollywood telling me how George Davis would get people fired up.
Yeah, he'd get them all fired up about fishing and how big the fish were and how many they caught and everything.
And what are they going to do tomorrow? That's the big thing. They got to get their ticket for tomorrow.
You bet.
And what size? Wallace Caswell now, physical stature, sort of what size of guy was he?
He wasn't a great big guy.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't. Well, it's like my dad.
Yeah.
You know, of course, when I was little, I thought my dad was a giant.
Yeah.
But hell, he was 5'7" and weighed about 140 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, on his best day. Most of the time about 135, unless he put a brick in his back pocket. Mm-hmm. But they were wiry, and they come up during that era of the Depression and World War II, and they were tough. I mean, that definitely was the greatest generation because, you know, Dad was one of those. He would work, and I mean, if it hadn't been for my mother, I wouldn't have had a weekend off from school because I was working in the shipyard.
Yeah.
She insisted, though, that Sunday I got to go to church and got to go play, but that was it, you know.
That work ethic was,
man.
It was second to none. That really was to
No.
help build our country and all. So we do have Veterans Day coming up next week, so we're going to talk more about that later. But we were going to get into some of the boating and all. We were talking about some good. We always like to touch on history because I know your dad was important in our history and heritage. So every time you come, I'll always ask you a couple of questions about those days. So
Sure.
now we're talking about some nice boat trips to take, and you're talking, going from Carabel to Tarpon Springs across the Gulf. That's a nice little stretch right there.
It is.
A good run.
It's 180 nautical miles from Carabel down to Tarpon Springs to Anklote Key. Mm-hmm. And it's not a lot of places to duck in if the weather gets nasty. And of course, there's not an intercoastal waterway there per se. In other words, it is called intercoastal. It's the rim ride, as they call it. And you can go around, and it's a long way if you just follow the buoys, and they keep you about 12 miles offshore, but that water's shallow in there. Mm-hmm. So you got to be that far out if you draw any water at all. And I mean, full foot, you got to be out there. And it takes a while to get across there, and ideally, most people, what they'll do is they'll come out of the pass there at Carabel, mm-hmm. between Dog Island and St. George Island, the east end of St. George Island. And they go straight across to Seahorse Reef Light right there off Cedar Key. And well, that's 90 miles. And then they turn and go another 90 miles down to Anklote Key. And the trick there is to get a good weather window where you got at least a day before you go that the weather's laid down. And then you want to know that you got at least 48 hours to get on across there before it hits again. Because depending on the speed of your boat, it could take, 20, 24 hours to get across there. And there's not a lot of places to get out of bad weather if it happens. So you can go into Cedar Key, but you got to know where you're going because there's some rocks down there.
You brought up a good point, too. A lot of times you don't realize out in the Gulf that weather on a lake, it'll lay down overnight or something, but out in the Gulf sometimes.
30 minutes, you can go from slick calm to mean as all get out.
Yeah, a lot of times it takes a while to lay it back down to get back calm.
Yes,
too.
it does.
So just
and one of the other tricks down there is you listen to the forecasting. They tell you, you're going to have 1 to 3, you're going to have 4 footers. If they say they're going to be 2 to 4, you're going to have 6 footers. So a lot of times I said, listen to that. But the other thing is, in that area down there, because most of it in Tallahassee is kind of geared coming towards us.
Yeah.
If you listen to the St. Augustine weather on the other side of the state, which is a different channel, on your weather station, I think it's 2 or 4, I can't remember which. But if you go up, you'll hear it. Once you figure out you're listening to St. Augustine, you'll get a truer picture of what you're probably going to run into doing that crossing than you will if you listen to our weather over here.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a good little trip.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Here we're Captain Rick Corley, the Panhandle Outdoors boating expert. But first, we're going to talk about Bay High having a reunion.
Yeah, they are. November the 23rd, they're going to be at Wyndham Resort, which is the old Bay Point Marriott.
Yeah.
I think it starts at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You can call me. I'll have to look on the
But it's stretching out a bunch of classes put together now.
They got all of the 60s, and I think even up to 72 that are going to be there.
Good.
And, of course, when you were in school, and you were a sophomore, you knew the juniors and seniors and vice versa. Yeah. So, that's going to be fun. You get to be able to see some of the people you hadn't seen in years.
Yeah.
And I don't know all who put it together, but Paul Sims was kind of one of the leads on the last time, and I got a feeling he was involved on it this time, which he's done a good job. And I hear some people, I don't want to go. I said, man, you hadn't seen some of these people in a long time, and if you look around, we're losing some of them now. And I said, you may never get to see them again. And I said, of course, there may be some you don't want to, but there'd be a lot that you do, too.
That's true. Yeah, I enjoy those reunions.
I do. I have a good time at them because you look at people and you say, boy, some of them changed a lot, some of them not at all.
I always go back, I flash back to when we were kids. The fun things you did as kids and all. So you have that bond, even going through school and all the goofy things you did. And
sure. So, and this was a great place to grow up in the 50s and 60s. I promise you, I had a ball growing up. Yeah. And today, they would probably put my dad in jail for child neglect or child abuse or something. Yeah, because we would get in a tin boat and paddle all over the bay. We'd go clear up to Shell Point from Grand Lagoon in a 8-foot 10 boat and camp out, spend the whole weekend up there. Parents, I know what my dad did. He'd get in the boat and he'd come up there and look and see if he could see a campfire or something, knew everything's all right, and come back. But I didn't know he was doing that, but I bet you he was. Yeah. But, you know, we got to explore and have an adventure and all, and kids don't get to do that today.
That's true. That is so true. That's why we encourage, you know, families to do outdoor things like the camping and all. Sure. Just let them do those. And I do have some students now who are actually going out as seniors, going out camping for their first time at San Andreas State Park. It's not like the old days, but at least they're getting out there and camping with the tents and all. Well,
my daughter was talking about it the other day, and she's now in her mid-30s, and got a 4-year-old. And she remembers when she was a little bitty, we took myself and Tom Francis and his kids. Tom and I took the boat, his boat. We went up, we anchored off Shell Point up there and waded in with the kids and all the camping gear and set up. And there's 3 oak trees up there on the point. And it's really nice for building a little fire. We were sitting there at the fire one night, and Piper just happened to look up, and not 6 feet away was an owl sitting there, just watching us. We hadn't heard him or seen him. He was just sitting there watching us like, what are y'all doing?
And she still remembers it.
She still remembers it to this day. Yes.
That's great. Well, let's get over to boats now. We're talking about boats and all. Price is still pretty well down on boats?
They're down, yeah. And there's a few boats that are being repossessed that are out there. So if you're looking for some big boats, right now you can get some pretty good deals.
Okay.
Most of the boats are down considerably over what they would be in a normal market, and there are a lot. I'm having a banner year because people are being able to buy boats they couldn't buy before, and they realize it because once this economy does turn around, the inflation, you won't be able to touch one of these boats.
So you think the general, you mentioned this earlier, you think price is going to start going up before long, eventually?
Eventually, somewhere in the next couple of years, I think you're going to see it. So because the manufacturers are back building boats.
Okay.
They're seeing it, and they're gearing up for it. So I don't think it's going to be much longer before you're going to see things turn around, in spite of everything.
Well, now, when someone's going out looking for a boat, now where are some of the best places? I know you got Boat Trader magazines, you got ads in the paper and all, but word of mouth, what?
Well, and of course, on the internet, you've got Yacht World and things of that nature that you can kind of get an idea. And the biggest thing is you got to remember, you can't buy this thing over the internet. And a lot of people want to look at it and tell me to go look, and I tell them all the time, I said, look, I can't see this boat through your eyes. And I'm looking for what will blow up, burn up, sink the boat, get you hurt or killed, get you written up by Marine Police or the Coast Guard to avoid those problems. But whether you like the boat or not, I have no idea. And one of the things I tell them all the time, I says, if we like the same thing, we'd be married to the same woman, and that'd create a problem. So we don't. Bottom line is, I like what I like, you like what you like. You need to see that boat. And I like for the customer to be there because a lot of times, even though I think I write a decent report, you can't put everything in writing. And him being there and seeing what I can do, and I can have counsel with him right there on what I see, what's wrong, how to go about fixing it, whatever. And I just prefer the customer to be there on hand so that he can literally see what I'm talking about, and then he understands the boat. He can go with me on the sea trial, and he can see how the boat performs. He can get to handle the boat some, see how it like. Then when he makes a decision, he's making an informed decision. He's not leaning on me to say, well, yeah, he said buy the boat. I don't want him coming back 2 months later saying, well, I hate this boat. Well, why? Well, if I'd have known this, I would. I said, well, you didn't go. You weren't here. And you're making that big a purchase sight unseen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's dumb.
Yeah. Well, I think most people are going to,
most
try
will.
it out. And I guess the big thing is that engine. You got to make sure that engine.
Yes, and I don't do engine surveys except when it's the determined cause and origin of failure for the insurance company, because I don't want to take business away mechanics.
Yeah.
I'm a surveyor, and technically by my bylaws, I'm not allowed to take a wrench and open a hatch. If you got to take a screwdriver and take it apart to get in, I can't go there. That's working on the boat, and it forbids me to work on the boat. I can't take care in custody. when we go out on the boat, I can run the boat as the operator, but I can't be captain because I'm taking care of custody of the boat. That is for the owner's representative or someone, the broker or somebody is in charge. I will do whatever he wants done. But I can physically operate the boat. And I'm one of the few surveyors to do that, but I've been doing this a long time, and you get over 50,000 hours of running a boat, you kind of feel comfortable doing it. So.
Well, and the integrity of that hull.
That's correct. That's the integrity of the hull is real important, and your stringers and things of that nature. And a lot of times what I will do is during the sea trial, if I see something, it's kind of like, doing a duck inspection. If it quacks and waddles like a duck, we'll call it a duck. If it doesn't, then I'm going to say, wait a minute, we got to get a mechanic to say why this is doing something or why it's not doing something it should, or what's going on. We look at the exhaust, we look for bad hoses, belts, bad motor mounts, the external stuff, and I listen and I feel and I smell, and I try to see the exterior stuff. So, and if the engine turns what it should, it doesn't overheat, it keeps good oil pressure after it's up normal, and all. When you idle down, the oil pressure doesn't drop too far and that kind of thing, and the exhaust looks good, probably you're okay. But I never discourage them from having an engine surveyed by a good mechanic because, even that is not going to find everything. You can always have something that you can miss. I mean, we don't have X-ray vision eyes, and none of us built that boat. We're just looking at trying to find everything we can.
All right. All right, let's take a final break and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the final segment of Panhandle Outdoors. We're glad you're here this morning. Enjoy that cup of coffee and get ready for a good day at work and get ready to do something good for your fellow man today. But first, let's look at our fish and game forecast. We're looking at some good times. This is brought to us by Mark Cowart at Edgewater Beach Realty. Mark's number is 832-6000. Anywhere between Carabel and Destin, give Mark a call about any kind of real estate, and he's good at it, I promise you. Time, 2:05 to 4:05 this morning. Okay, and then this afternoon, 2:35 to 4:35. The excellent time, 2:35 to 4:35. So that's a fishing game forecast for today. Rick and I were talking off the screen a while ago about, and I think I'm the world's worst about getting that perfect boat. You just can't. You can't.
You're not going to find one.
And I think the problem, you hit the nail on the head. The more I do, because I love doing this, I love doing that. And go ahead and talk about what you were saying.
Yeah. You cannot find a boat that'll do everything you want. It just won't happen.
Yeah.
What you've got to do is look and say, what is the probably 80% of what I use the boat for? 80%. And that is what you want to look at. If you're the type like me that likes to go cruising, then you're looking for something like a trawler. If you love sailing, of course you want a sailboat. But there again, if you're a sailor, are you racing or are you cruising? And every boat is a compromise. There is no perfect boat. For my likes, one of the best boats that would be perfect for me would be a 31-foot Ranger tug with the collapsible fly bridge. For the things that I would want to do, that boat comes as close to meeting everything that I want to do as I could get. And there's still some compromises on that it wouldn't work for me, but you just work around them. That's all there is to it. I've been married 45 years in April. For me, I got the perfect wife. But every once in a while, she can push the right button and it don't. No, I need to go somewhere and cool off because it'll make me angry. And that's human nature. There's no way that you can be 100% satisfied with anything all the time. It just ain't going to happen.
Well, on a smaller scale, I look at things, and a lot of my viewers like this. I love to flounder. I love to shallow water fish. I love to go out in the Gulf, and I love to troll for kings, and I love bait fishing. I love scalloping, and you just cannot get a boat to do all those things.
No, because you need a flats boat and you need an offshore boat.
Yeah, and I love fishing the river.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So
I told sound like you really need 3 boats. You need a John boat for the river, and you need a flat skiff, and then you need something small to go out there in the Gulf.
That's what I have.
Yeah, I understand.
I can't conglomerate all that at once, so I just got 3 or 4 different boats.
There's no way, and that's the problem. And that's what I tell people. I said, look, what do you want to use the boat for? Let's talk about what you most of the time are going to use the boat for. and gear yourself for going after that boat. Then you tell me what the others are, and I can tell you, well, it'll probably work. Not perfect, but it'll work for that. Or it won't work for this. And then, you know, sometimes I tell people you need to get you a little skiff to go with it or something.
And you know, a lot of boats, a lot of these smaller boats are built here in the southeast.
Yes.
But I know that one boat is built up in the northwest. And I've been in the press. I've been on one of them, but just the way they look and the way they look like the handle is that Parker boat.
Yep.
And it's built up in Washington.
It's up in Washington, and another one is the Ranger tug I was telling you about. It's built in Kent, Washington, which is right there, not far from Seattle on Puget Sound. And they built some very nice boats.
And they hit that Pacific Sea, so they're designed for some really heavy.
Yes, they are. They're designed for some rough water. Because I'm here to tell you, up there around Oregon Inlet, it can get nasty.
And then down here on the Carolinas, you have that Carolina hull.
Yep.
And Mike Miller, I call it Mike Miller hull. He has a nice hull on.
Yes, he does.
On his boats.
And those boats are built for working places like off Hatteras and so on. That's kind of like a Harker's Island, Miller. And you get down in South Florida, you got the Rybovich and those. And of course, the Rybovich is the Rolls Royce of sport fishers, without a doubt. But they still use wood. That's all mahogany.
Really?
Yes, mahogany. Of course, now they encapsulate it, but it's still mahogany hull because it's lighter and stronger.
So it's structurally still strong then.
Oh yeah, very strong.
Okay.
But Mike probably anywhere around here, Mike probably builds one of the finest sport fishers built, and he's a very good boat builder. They got a good yard. We're fortunate we've got 3 good shipyards here.
Yes, we are.
Besides Eastern, and of course, I don't consider them in that mix because these are all for smaller boats.
Yeah, they're working.
Eastern is the big stuff.
Yeah.
But the Eastern's got a fantastic reputation internationally. They're building a lot of boats.
Yeah.
They're doing great.
I know a lot of folks I know have been out there a lot. They work really hard out there.
Whew.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, Rick, we're going to wrap it up, buddy, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anytime you have a boat question or something, email me, and I'll get to Rick, and the next time he's on, we'll answer all these questions about boat. He knows a lot about them.
And if I don't, I've got a good library. If I don't know, I'm not going to tell you I know. I'll just tell you I got to go look it up because nobody knows all the answers.
Thank you all for
one
watching.
does, but...
Oh, yeah. Thank you all for watching. You have a great day. Do something good for somebody. God bless.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.